Good afternoon. My name is Jimmy Kim, and you are tuning in to the greatest show on the planet. The name of the show is The Jimmy Kim Show. Today we have a very special guest here, longtime friend of mine. His name is John Spiers. He's a modern Renaissance man. He's a doctor, lawyer, businessman, and a veteran. All right, John, go ahead and introduce yourself.
And Jim, you always do that to me. You introduce me as Spiers, and it's Spiers. We've known each other for a long time. You do that to me every time.
Oops. Sorry about that.
Hey, listen, he's been known to pull my leg a time or two. I'm John Spiers. I am a proud Texan is the way I would describe myself. You add all these other things there, and
Right.
yeah, they're true. I am a heart surgeon. I do practice law. I have a law degree. I also served in the Army Reserve. But the thing I'm proudest of is being a Texan. It's a great place to be.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Love
Except in
being
the
here.
summer, the summer, of course, I was joking with you earlier about looking out the window thinking, oh, it looks so beautiful through these tinted windows, and I know it's hot and muggy down there right now.
Oh yeah, it's middle of summer. It can get really, really hot.
Yep.
But I'm used to it at this point, and I'm sure you are. You are as well, because we've
Yep.
been here most of our lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's part of it.
Sure. All right, John. So we're gonna get started here, and if you could give us some background about your life, if you can kind of
Sure.
start
Sure.
from your beginnings, kind of to where you are now.
Oh, absolutely. I grew up in deep South Georgia. Much like Texas here, we have much of the same values and much of the same weather. Early in life, I wanted to become a heart surgeon. And I remember reading about, really and truly, when I say early, I mean sixth grade or so, reading about what was happening in Texas and some of the great things that were happening in Texas. We'd put a man on the moon. We'd built this wonderful city in Texas, but we were also doing heart transplants and changing the way the world saw medicine. And I thought, well, that'll be a great place to be. So over the years, I picked up on things like, watching John Wayne at the Alamo, of course, and then you gradually add more and more to it. So I was determined to come to Texas. Went off to Duke, played a little ball, went to medical school in Tennessee, where I learned to do an Elvis Presley impression, which I will not pain you with right now. Did general surgery, trauma surgery, joined the Army, was in San Antonio for part of the first Gulf War. Then I got to come to Houston, Texas, and become a heart surgeon, which was the greatest thing ever. It's absolutely thrilling to be here with people that you studied and learned about, you read about. They'd invented an entire field of medicine, almost on their own. There were many others, but certainly a lot of it was here. And I thought that was what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And then I'm out in practice. I was on the coast of Mississippi when Hurricane Katrina came, devastated my community. And I spent about a year there doing not a lot of heart surgery, doing more just basic care for people. I call it frontier medicine. At the end of that year, I actually wound up having to have some surgery myself, sustained a complication, lost the use of my left hand for a long time. And it's no surprise to anyone that no one wants a one-handed heart surgeon. And so I had to figure out what to do. What do I do? And one of the things I learned about Texas very early that's always impressed me, it's impressed me about you, it's impressed me about so many other folks,
Thank you.
was our ability to believe we're going to do anything. And if you need to start over, what better place to start over than in a state where the people believe you can do anything? And so I came back and went to law school. So heart surgeon, lawyer, spent a little time with Uncle Sam, got into business, spent a lot of time fighting big government, and think this is the greatest place to be for all of those things right now.
Right. Yeah, I can totally agree with that.
So that's me in a nutshell, Jim.
I'm sure there's more intricacies to each one of those things that you said, but
there is, but that's just part of it.
right. Long story short, right?
Yeah.
So you mentioned that the story about how you wanted to get involved in medicine because you wanted to keep up with what was going on, and then there was a genuine interest from you to do that. So my question for you, John, is what is your opinion about modern medicine right now and the direction it's headed and how we can improve that system of healthcare
Well,
and medicine itself.
True. We have, actually, if you look at what we're capable of doing now in medicine, it is absolutely fascinating to see where we have come in just the past 100 years. Medical education has changed in the past century dramatically. We've gone from having people learn to do surgery by going into an open-air auditorium and watching it done to formal training programs that take years and years. We've gone from spending a lot of time in the laboratory or in the pathology laboratory dissecting cadavers to now where we can do things using artificial intelligence and we can educate our students that way. I think we've made a lot of great advancements that way. Right now, down at the Methodist Hospital, I was touring there the other day. They have an Institute of Technology where they are training tomorrow's surgeons to use, and they're developing techniques using robots that are just absolutely incredible. And I know other people are doing the exact same thing. It's not just isolated. What an exciting place and what exciting time. The downside of all of that, and there is always a downside, is we have moved away from that relationship that physicians often have with their patients. And it's very difficult in these days to see physicians spending half of their day entering data on a computer. That takes away that bond. Nursing staff spending a great deal of their time entering things on a computer rather than actually interacting with patients, and that's disappointing. It's very difficult.
I can agree with you. Yeah, I've always believed in the value of customer service in every industry, and that includes in the medical field. And when you lose that human touch, sometimes it just doesn't feel the same.
Well, it's I always liken it. It's when someone comes in, and you can call it the laying on of hands, but they actually touch you. You establish a relationship with them. Today, I see physicians describing encounters that last just a matter of 5 minutes or less. Well, true, I might be able to make a diagnosis in a minute, but that patient wants that there to be some connection. They want to feel there's a bond so that they come in and they want to talk to Jim Kim and they want to feel comfortable about talking with Jim and they want to know a little bit about him and they want to know that Jim cares. That's all they ask, really, is
right.
This person listen and cares. And I always found when I was in practice, one of the things I really miss is sitting down and talking to my patients, learning about their families, hearing about their vacations, their concerns in life, because they're people and they're important. We've moved a little bit away from that. I know there are a lot of great physicians, a lot of great nurses, a lot of people in healthcare that really, really miss that.
Yeah, there's times when I thought the exact same thing. Well, I do agree that we need to embrace all the new and up-and-coming technologies, but we still need to hold on to the good from the old as well.
Oh, yeah.
The old school practices.
Well, it's the art of medicine. It's not, it's a practice.
It is a practice. Essentially,
We're constantly learning.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if I told you, but I used to be a medical operations manager. So
all right.
Yeah, I used to work in that field too.
See, I learned something new today. I thought I knew Jim Kim. I've known him for years now, and you learn something new every day.
Right. These things come out. All right. Next, John. So if you could, so I know there's, like I said, probably a lot of things that you did in each field that you've worked in.
Uh-huh.
But if you can go into a little bit more detail as your career as a heart surgeon, and then as an attorney,
Okay.
and then in the Army, and then as well as your
Okay.
family. So
Absolutely.
four parts there.
4 parts.
Yes.
I hope I can remember all of that. As a heart surgeon, one of the things, here working with Dr. DeBakey and other, titans, these were great men and women that changed the way we practice. But parts of it, you always find yourself, it doesn't matter what you intend to do, you're always going to find you like some things better than others.
Right.
I was fascinated with the way the technology was evolving. And so we had gone from where we made these very large incisions, 18 inches or so, and suddenly we were able to make those smaller and smaller and smaller. So I started doing some keyhole surgery, trying to make incisions that were just a few inches in length. Found that really exciting. And then I took that and applied it to other places. I started doing my carotid artery surgery through smaller and smaller incisions because that was a challenge to make it more comfortable for the patient.
Right. And
it also helped them recover quicker. At the exact same time, there were some brilliant people who were doing some work with carotid artery stenting and carotid artery angioplasty, and they were trying to develop that because, let's face it, just as my cardiology friends say, would you rather have an 18-inch incision in your chest or have a quarter-inch incision in your groin to treat your disease if both ways are equal and you have the option? Well, they're going to choose a smaller incision if everything else is equal. And what we found as time went on is that, it became not only equal, but sometimes better. And so we started moving away from big things to small things to do the same job. I remember I was at a meeting once where in the morning I saw a percutaneous aortic valve placed early in its evolution. Now, in the past, we would have to make a huge incision, stop the heart, open the main artery, take the old valve out, put a new valve in, start the heart up, and so forth. It was a big operation. And suddenly, they're able to put a catheter in through the groin, through an artery in the groin, thread it to the heart, and put a new valve in place. Well, that was absolutely incredible. That was fascinating to me. And so I started to look at those techniques and try to figure out where else could I use that sort of technology. And for a stretch there, I was using little small stents like we would use in your coronary arteries. Sometimes we'd use stents that were designed for, they were designed for use in veins. They were designed for use in bile ducts even early on. Some of these stents, and we would do treatments involving using those to treat blockages in other parts of the body. And so it really changed. We became able to treat, we suddenly gained the ability to treat diseases that could never be treated. The treatment, unfortunately, was amputation. Suddenly we're saving limbs that had never been saved before. That was one of the most exciting things about when people say heart surgeon, you're talking about doing things that aren't heart surgeons, right? It's blood vessels, and we were interested in doing that. That was really fascinating. One of the most exciting things for me to see, especially that I love, evolve over a series of years. Heart surgery began as we know it in the 1950s when we developed the heart-lung machine. Heart-lung machine is the device that actually pumps the blood and it basically serves as your heart and lungs while you're having heart surgery. And so it would do the breathing and the pumping for you. Well, that started in the 1950s. And then in the 1960s is when we started doing coronary artery surgery. We'd already started doing some valve surgery before that. And think about where we are today. So from the 1950s to 2021, we have gone from making big incisions and stopping the heart to now we can do almost the same thing, with a little incision in the groin on somebody that's not quite asleep, but they're sedated. Absolutely incredible.
That is incredible.
That's amazing.
So,
no matter how you slice it, that's amazing.
Right. So what you're saying is those methods that you worked on, those are very prevalent now in surgery?
Well, I didn't invent any of these things. Let's be clear.
That you
I didn't
worked
invent any
on.
of it.
Sure. Okay.
Don't want to make anyone think I did something like that.
Right.
But I'm very proud and pleased to have been kind of a part of this as it grew along, because there are some amazing things being done today. We are so blessed. And here in Houston, what better place to be? Because it's the largest medical center. It's kind of, in my mind, one of the birthplaces of heart surgery.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
The very first coronary bypass was done here in humans. It's interesting when some folks published a paper saying, look, we've got a new technique we've done, and Dr. DeBakey always loved to publish things like, we've already done that, and that was the case. We had follow-up on a bypass that had been done here earlier. Amazing to see how that was done. Dr. Denton Cooley actually perfected, I believe, the way he basically laid the groundwork for much of the way a heart transplant is performed. He didn't invent the heart transplant. He took it and made the surgery into essentially the same surgery we use today. And he did that in the 60s. We think about that. That's amazing. 1960s, 1970s.
I wasn't even around at that time.
See,
that's astonishing.
You're rubbing it in again.
That's phenomenal. And yeah, I feel like a lot of the times people have a misconception that Texas or Houston, we're just the oil energy capital of the world.
Well, we
but we
are.
also have, well, we're that, but as well, we have a booming medical industry here as well.
Well, that's why I wear the cowboy hat all the time. Wherever I go, people say, "Well, you must be from Texas," and I say, "Well, how did you know?" Absolutely,
Right.
I love. I'm very proud of our state, and there is
Right.
a fascinating intersection between oil and gas, NASA, the Texas Medical Center, our wonderful educational institutions here.
Agreed.
There's so many brilliant and innovative people that came
Right.
together, maybe by accident, maybe by design. They all came together at once and made Houston into what I think is one of the most dynamic cities in the nation. And in fact, when I say Houston, just so everybody knows, when I say Houston, I'm talking about not just Houston or Harris County, but the people all around it. The greater Houston area
Right.
is about the size of the state of Connecticut. That's a lot of people.
It is.
That's a lot of people. And a lot of innovation has occurred here. People come up with great ideas. Whether it's auto-tune for your singing.
For the music?
You use auto-tune, yeah. That came out of oil and
I need
gas.
that whenever I sing.
I need it a lot, yeah. But they, that kind of grew out of the oil and gas industry, out of seismology,
Oh, really?
where they're searching for pockets of oil and gas, and they had to tune manipulate the signals a little bit to clarify it. And then someone said, we can make Jim Kim sound like he can really sing if we do this. And so another industry was born. And then when you look at what built the Texas Medical Center, a lot of that was our oil and gas industry, and a lot of generous patrons who have recognized that there are great things to be done. But Houston's about a lot more than that, Jim. We dug a ship channel.
Right.
People say, well, Houston has a port. Oh yeah, we're one of the largest ports. And by the way, we're 50 miles inland. That's pretty impressive.
It's phenomenal.
To dig a big ditch down to the Gulf of Mexico.
Right.
It's incredible. And it's that can-do spirit that makes Houston great.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm on the exact same page with you. I